So I guess we can start on with the first topic, and this is mainly what are the main factors in terms of construction that investors in PV need to consider when developing a project. I think you can share some insights on that, and could those have a considerable impact on the overall efficiency and cost of the project?
Sure. First of all, let me start by thanking you and thanking the organizers for the great event and for giving me the chance to speak to you, and a lot of interesting discussions we have already heard today. And I think your question comes at the right time after we have heard a lot about the PPAs, a lot about the development, a lot about the engineering. It has been touched upon about the components and how important it is to choose the correct components when aiming to create a project that will be efficient, not only for the client, but for everyone throughout the chain. Earlier today, throughout one of the discussions, it was mentioned that the dialog is the key, and I think that this is exactly an answer to your question, how important is the installer's point of view when it comes to the overall efficiency of the project. Evklips Energy is a company that's been involved in construction activities across Europe for the last 7 years, more or less. We have worked in Poland, Netherlands, Germany, Finland now, quite a big project that we are building at the moment, and I'm very happy to see that there is a very big change in the perception and the incentives for our clients. When approaching us, right in the beginning of our activities, we would get asked for price quotation right at the very end of the whole cycle of the project execution. So that would be after the development stage, when all the permits are received or about to be received, all the components have already been chosen and sometimes delivered, even when all the engineering decisions in this respect, the layouts, SLDs, etc., have already been prepared. And only then we'll get approached by clients, either big EPCs, investors or developers, to provide a price. And it's very important to mention that the budget of the whole project is not defined at this final stage. It has been divided after the development. So that gave us, at least back then, a very limited opportunity to be flexible and really charge what we need to charge, otherwise you're not competitive enough. This, as I said, has been changed, and I'm very happy to see this change because we have had many discussions with different partakers in the whole chain for the project execution, and now we are partnering, for example, with University of Graz for one of the projects that we did 4 years ago. It was an agri-PV project, and we started throughout the development. So we did a site visit, did a site feasibility study. We helped them choose the right plot for the project, which gave them much clearer perception of what the end result would be, and they could very easily form their budget and their whole perception and their view on the project itself. So I think the most important is not to separate the different participants in the different stages of the project, but have them all included as early as possible, as only having the opinion and having the insights for everyone in the whole supply chain. That's the only way to have an efficient and cost-efficient project for sure. And I think that it has worked very well. We are also partnering, let's say, with components manufacturers. One example, just to exemplify this, is that we are working with one of the leaders in production of steel structures, and we are working together with them and doing the cost estimation for the installation. So this really helps the developers or the investors have a very good overview of the final cost. Because if you choose the components, the structure in this particular example that I'm giving, only led by the price, then you are risking of having your budget overrun because of the installation. Cheaper components does not mean cheaper installation. Speaking from experience, it's always quite the opposite. How long it will take you to assemble the structure, how long it will take you, and
considering the approach of investors and developers, is there a big difference between Bulgarian ones and foreign ones? Because as we already saw and we heard, the solar boom is evident almost across everywhere in Europe, and Bulgaria is part of that.
Yeah, definitely there is a very big difference, but this is very easy to explain. The maturity of the market is a key here. So in Bulgaria, the solar and photovoltaic market is nothing new. We have seen the expansion again, and there was a steady stop of it, or now we see the boom, whereas it's been growing much more steadily outside Bulgaria, so it's easy to have investors that are more open to new technologies, more open to the different opportunities that are available at the market outside of Bulgaria. However, I think that it's very good that in Bulgaria we have a lot of companies, and honestly Bulgaria and Romania in the last 5 years have become hub of installation companies. We have heard some of them earlier today throughout the discussions, and I'm sure that they will back me up in this, but I would say that Bulgarian companies, not only Evklips, but we have colleagues that are working very well outside Bulgaria, so we have the knowledge and we have the know-how. So when we are approached by Bulgarian investors, it is very easy for us to give our opinion. Obviously, whether or not they will respect it, it's their own choice, but here today I even met a client of ours that was very receptive to our suggestions, and have taken decisions that might not have been the cheapest at the time, but have turned very cost effective throughout the whole process, and their park is running and operating now. So.
Especially with the projects growing with a lot more pressure being put on the solar generation during the day. Of course, all these decisions that are probably made in the beginning of the process are turning out to be very important. But I would like to flip around a little bit the conversation around agrivoltaics and floating photovoltaic power plants, because I know that you have a specific opinion on that and you have experience. So what are the main differences between Western Europe and Eastern Europe? Because can we draw a similar parallel between both of those technologies in terms of the differences between Bulgaria and outside of Bulgaria?
It's very hard to discuss agrivoltaics and floating voltaics in Bulgaria and outside Bulgaria, because unfortunately Bulgaria is quite far away from having the first such systems installed. It's a great regret personally for me and for us at Evklips Energy, because we have started developing those market segments quite a long time ago, I'll say 4 years ago, when we have put a lot of efforts and invested a lot of funds into developing those. And it has turned out very successful for us. We're still building. Only in 2 weeks' time, we started another floating project in Belgium. And it's unfortunate that we cannot employ the knowledge that we have here in Bulgaria.
Is it a river or
dam? No, it's a dam. And it's a very interesting project. Whoever is interested, I'm more than happy to share, but it's a drinking water dam. And it will continue being drinking water dam while we are building it. And this comes to maybe a very good explanation to your question of where is Bulgaria. I think not only Bulgaria but Eastern Europe is traditionally very agriculture-focused region. The question still is photovoltaics or agriculture. Whereas outside Bulgaria in Central and Western Europe, the question one or the other is no longer valid. It's how to integrate both. And I have briefly mentioned in the beginning of the discussion that we have cooperated with the University of Graz. It was a very small pilot project for Austria, where we installed solar panels above apple trees. And it was a very interesting experiment even for us, because what we have to do there is first cooperate with the University of see what exactly do they need, what they want to achieve with this project. Then we have to cooperate with the manufacturers of the structure, so we have to examine the whole plot, we have to choose the right plot, then we have to see what is the crop's life cycle, because when you do such a project, especially for agrivoltaics, you have to consider that most likely you'll be working with farmers, and farmers are very protective over the land, and there is a very big chance that they will be reluctant to assist you, and we have seen it. So this whole process was not easy, but what we see now in, let's say, Germany, which is still the biggest for agrivoltaics, biggest market for agrivoltaics, followed by France, by Italy, the requests are growing. And although it did take quite a few years to see the results of the first such installations, and really make a definition of whether or not the panels or the structure are disturbing the crops. Nowadays, those projects are no longer innovation. Those projects are not niche projects. They are mainstream projects. We have received a lot of requests for projects over 30 megawatts, which a couple of years ago was impossible and very hard to think of. And agrivoltaics, I know that in Bulgaria, it has been a discussion, and there is a lot of incentives to have the legal framework, but that's the elephant in the room. We don't have it yet because there is no legal framework. I know I'm no respect expert in legislation, but I know that there have been incentives, and I have personally discussed it. And I know that it's a matter of time. Hopefully, it will be much sooner. Similar with the floating voltaics, it does not mean that you will no longer use the water. As I said, we will be building in Belgium while the water is still drinking.
We actually had this case, probably people in the room remember a couple of years ago, news broke out about a floating solar project in Montana, the lake over there. There was a huge backlash from the local community, from fishermen, from all sorts of actually different groups that were against that. And actually, things never turned out to be successful anyways, but it's just the amount of backlash that people gave to this kind of project, and the amount of bad reputation that it conceived without any specific reason, and the fact that it was not even discussed on a regulatory level. It's
well, that's the biggest problem, and it is the social stigma. As I said, Eastern Europe and Bulgaria in particular, we are very protective over agriculture, and as I said, we really need to work a lot to educate the society, and really don't think that if you have a solar power plant, you are no longer able to use the land. There are examples, very clear examples, and I'm more than happy to share results for from such projects where apples, for example, and various project areas are performing much better underneath the panels. You have the thermal regulation, you have the humidity regulation, along with so many other benefits. Of course, not all the crops and not all the livestock will be able to live under the panels, but that comes the experience and the whole study before you start such projects, and until there is a reasonable discussion on the matter, and really until we start to educate the public, there will be such resilience. And especially for floating voltaics, there are so many dams that are no longer in use. They're there. And I think that with the increasing demand for electricity and decarbonization, we see all the ESG policies now being amended more or less, but we have to stick to some goals. We have to reach a certain level, whether or not it will be what's agreed at this point, but we have to do something towards decarbonization, even if we do not reach all the goals. And the land is not endless. So we have to think about alternatives of different projects, how we can execute those, and how we can utilize the land. The dual usage of the land is very, very important. And another factor, slightly off the topic, but very related to the topic at the same time, is you see the demand for storage now. You see the AI. Actually, in Sweden, that's how the whole solar ball started growing. There was centers can provide. How do you power them? Well, solar in Sweden, turned out to be the answer, and that's why in 2022, if I'm not mistaken, there was a boom for the PPAs. So
Or nuclear.
exactly. Well, it was there. It was the solar, but it's very interesting to see. So I don't think that we should limit ourselves and just think outside the box, one or the other, but how to combine those.
Yes, I think these are a lot of questions that we can ask the politicians from the Energy Commission that are, I think, outside right now.
Yeah.
But maybe if we meet them later, we can ask them all those questions. But as a last question in our conversation, maybe you can share a few insights about Evklips Energy has entered the Scandinavian market in the last few years. Are the Nordic countries well suited for PV, and why? You mentioned about Sweden already, but please share some of your experiences as a final line of the conversation.
Yeah, thank you for this question, because I have been asked a lot when I say that we built 240 megawatts in Finland, and the first question is, you have 3 hours of daylight, why would you build solar there? And it's a very logical question. And the Nordics in general, because of its regional positioning and the climate and the terrain specifics, are not the most logical choice. However, as I said, with the growing demand for electricity and energy, and in the context of decarbonization and lowering the emissions, the topic for solar and renewables in general has become very important there and has been discussed in details. Of course, you have Sweden and Denmark that are also focusing on wind, but solar is, I would say, long-term, relatively fast return, and much cheaper to maintain power and source for energy. And as I said, apart from the storage requirements and the energy requirements, you have 3 hours of daylight in the winter, but then you have longer summer. With the new technologies using bifacial panels, for example, the efficiency is there. And not to mention that some of our clients there, especially in Finland and Denmark, are very big companies that are oil companies and refineries. You know that, again, in the context of ESG, there is a lot of push to lower, balance out the emissions. And how do you do that? You need to be green. For oil industry that is traditionally producing emissions, then how do you balance it? So for them, it was very interesting to see their case and see why would they, because even to me, it was very perplexing to see that they would spend billions in a project on a rock. They spend over 10 billion, I think, to get rid of the rocks. When I saw the videos of our team performing work there, we were shocked. The back office team was shocked, but it made sense. Because with all the goals, and let's not forget that decarbonization is a very big topic, and companies need to become green, especially those that are generally producing emissions. So they're putting a lot of investment, so in the long term they will be sustainable in a way. Because you cannot stop using oils, but you might find a way to be more sustainable. And I think that's exactly the approach based on experience in the Nordics.
I think that's a very good point, and actually a good way to end our conversation, because we're already a little bit over the time. Unfortunately, we didn't get that.
Sorry for the follow-up.
No, it's I think it was really interesting, especially the things that you shared. Most of the people can meet you up later and speak to you about more specifics or ask you any questions.